issues facing cities, counties, and states across our entire nation. Thank you. Sheriff?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you. I want to echo your sentiments as well in regards to everything that's happening across this country. We have a very big task before us as part of this council. I want to take the opportunity to kind of move us forward to brief everyone as to some of the things that we've been doing as a committee. You talked a little bit about what we've been doing at the level when it comes to mayor, the other mayors across our counties, our cities, and we've been taking this as well for first responders. One of the things that as a committee we've been doing is we've been putting out the information and having one-on-one interviews with the subject matter experts, people who've had firsthand experiences and how it's affected them for the past 10, 15, 20 years and how they've handled it or not handled it at the community level, at the city level, at the county level. And these firsthand testimonies is what we are bringing back to the committee and hopefully bringing it back upward when it comes to solutions. Additionally, we are also putting out surveys. I will be sharing it through the FBI National Academy Network, through the major County Sheriff's Association Network, through the National Sheriff's Association, the Florida Sheriff's Association, and Major County Chiefs Association. These are all major organizations that allows us to tap into law enforcement, first responders, so that we can get the input that we need to be able to bring forth the best information to this committee and to this review council. I'm very proud and honored to be a part of this committee. I'm grateful and thankful to Secretary Noem and Secretary Hegseth and to the leadership of this review council. Thank you very much.
Any further, Governor Youngkin, from your subcommittee?
Governor Bryant, I was just going to conclude by once again reiterating that the broad participation and the extensive effort to invite comments from across first responders, mayors, and governors and emergency management personnel has been a big effort of this subcommittee. And again, want to thank all the members of the subcommittee. And I also want to thank all of those that will be providing us input. We have a very extensive mapping exercise that will collect their input and provide us the opportunity to do exactly as President Trump asked us to do in his executive order, which is to understand how it works today and how it should work, and to be able to make recommendations on how to get states in the forefront and make sure that we are providing collectively the best response possible for Americans who need our help.
Governor, thank you so much. I want to thank you particularly for all the hard work and dedication you put into this effort. Governor Youngkin and I do talk on a regular basis. He is very focused on his mission as subcommittee chairman and has done a remarkable job, as he does as governor of the great state of Virginia. So, Governor, thank you so much for all of your work and what you're doing. Again, our prayers go out to you, the people in Texas that you know and are acquainted with, the loved and the lost there, and the structural damage and loss that you've gone through. We hope that the good Lord will assuage all of the pain and agony of the parents and the families that are suffering at this difficult time. Governor, thank you again. We'll move now to the subcommittee report on disaster response and recovery. Its core purpose is to evaluate how FEMA could better serve the American people as a supporting rather than supplanting agency, and to identify the necessary statutory changes to achieve this transformation. I'll turn now to Kevin Guthrie, Executive Director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management, for subcommittee report. Mr. Administrator, you're up.
Thank you, sir. So, Governor, I appreciate the opportunity to present today before you, the review council. I am going to solicit Mark to help me out in Nem's absence. I know that both of us have been talking to him off and on over the last week or so and have some of his thoughts. So instead of one of us trying to do it, I guess it takes two of us to create one Nem kid maybe. but we certainly appreciate everything that NEM's doing out there. First and foremost, at the Sponsor Recovery Subcommittee, we started out with several presentations on statutory functions of FEMA. These are dozens of objectives over a series of what, in essence, falls into 6 categories of work. That is, first and foremost, foundational authority. Then goes into disaster assistance, which is more so the response and recovery, the National Flood Insurance Program, mitigation, preparedness, and last of those 6 categories is the continuity of government and emergency communications. So what we're trying to do more than anything, Governor, is look at these areas in kind of a 2-pronged facet. Thank you. All right. So what we're trying to do is look at that in a 2-prong methodology. And those 2 prongs are, one, what can we provide to Acting Administrator Richardson today that we feel he could do with the stroke of a pen? In other words, things that are very fast acting, they do not require a change to 44 CFR, 2 CFR, any type of federal regulation, are clearly within his roles and authorities as the acting administrator. And then secondly, in parallel to that, we're looking at things that are going to take some type of statutory change that would be obviously need to start with Congress and the Senate. The next thing that we have been doing and will continue to do is conduct listening sessions. You heard Governor Youngkin speak about that. You heard Sheriff Rosie and Mayor Jane talk about that as well. We all continue to do that, both informally and formally, in taking information and digesting that information. We've been giving that information to council staff so that they can run the analysis on that and get it into our presentations as we meet each week. Something that is starting to emerge, and I shouldn't say starting to, I think we as a practitioners group knew that this was always the case. EMAC, the Emergency Management Assistant Compact, continues to be our number-1 go-to thing. I think what's starting to evolve from that, and we've heard this from numerous directors and governors, I'm sure the governors have heard this as well. You see evidence by Texas, you see evidence by New Mexico and other disasters that we've had around the country this year. Governors will send their staff. And I will tell you, as a governor's working directly for Governor Ron DeSantis, he never asks me the question, are we going to get reimbursed? He always does the right thing. He sends the people out the door. We'll figure out the reimbursement later. But at the end of the day, governors will be much more apt to send their individuals out the door if they know they are going to get reimbursed. And how can we improve that? And we think we have some ways that we will be recommending to the acting administrator, as well as potentially 44 CFR revisions to help get that done, so that governors know that when they do send help, they're not ultimately going to be given a bill and that come out of local taxpayer dollars versus coming from the federal government. Last, what things that's naturally I shouldn't say last, second to last, what are things that have traditionally been a federal role that may be able to be taken over by another partner or non-traditional partner? For example, we've already had associations starting to come forward saying, you know what, we with maybe just a tad bit more money, we could actually take on that role and do that. I'll give you one example, EMAC, back to where I started from. Is typically overseen in large part by the National Emergency Managers Association, and they continue to want to play an active role in that. So could they do more? I think the answer is they're ready, willing, and able to have that conversation. And perhaps it could relieve some personnel at the NOC or the RCCs and some other things that may be able to help us downsize traditional federal government and maybe put that back into a better, more highly functioning space. And then the last thing is we continue to have a conversation, still flushing it out. And I believe this might be happening at the governor's council as well, but parametric insurance is what is the role for parametric insurance in disasters as we move forward? You know, those specific parameters. Could you have a parametric insurance policy? The simple answer is yes. that's centered around debris removal. That is probably the most costly act that comes out of a disaster is debris removal, followed probably very closely by emergency protective measures. And then as you get into the permanent categories of work, is there a place there? And I know that some of our former administrators have probably some ideas and concepts about parametric insurance as well. So those are the things that we have been working on. I'm going to turn it over to Mark briefly and let him speak about anything else that I may have forgotten or that he's also talked to them about.
Thanks, Kevin. And first of all, just let me say, being part of this subcommittee is an honor for me. You've got three of the best emergency managers probably in the country, leaders, with Bob Fenton representing FEMA, and of course Kevin, and then Noem, and they all have dealt with a number of disasters. So the American people should be have comfort in knowing that you've got people that have the experience that can make the right recommendations. You know, at our last meeting, the secretary gave us the directive to go out and meet with stakeholders, and we've taken that very seriously. And I know Kevin already referenced that. We are going to be doing regional listening sessions. We've got one tomorrow here in Louisiana, but we've also invited the state emergency management directors from Delaware, we call them the lower Atlantic hurricane states, down to Florida, all the way across to Texas, to be with us tomorrow to give their input, as well as Governor Landry's organizations here in Louisiana that have input as well. We're also looking at doing one on the West Coast, in the northern states, and then also with Tornado Alley. And I think, again, the American people know that we're trying to get input, nonpartisan input from citizens, from parts of the country that deal with different types of disasters, from hurricanes to wildfires to, the flooding that we're seeing tragically in Texas. So I feel really good about that we're going to be able to give the secretary what she asked with this input. And it's going to take a lot of effort. We have a short time frame, but we are giving it our best effort to do that. So that's all I have to add to what you have to say.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mark. And, I think Mark honed in on one thing. I know that there was a lot of social media post and ghost, if you will, of individuals that felt that this particular makeup was a lot of hurricane Southeast United States individuals. I will tell you, this response and recovery group has painstakingly made sure that we have gotten out of our boxes, out of our states. I've been communicating with the New York State Commissioner for Emergency Management, who gave me a very, very well thought out process of preparedness metrics and things that she was able to pull together. For instance, 73% of all preparedness dollars in the state of New York have gone to all but about 14 nationally declared disasters. In other words, 202 of those disasters were not federally declared, and 73% of the people that responded to those were trained by individuals directly through FEMA preparedness dollars. I think that's the type of stuff that we don't hear about, and we need to hear more about that, how the federal funding is being effective in these states. So again, we have been listening. As my mom used to say, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much, and we've been doing that. So I would just say we're going to continue to do that, and I appreciate Bob, I appreciate Mark, Noem, for their leadership on this council, and we look forward to bringing you more recommendations in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope you can all tell the two subcommittees have been hard at work. The practitioner subcommittee, as we refer to it, has done an outstanding job of bringing in those that have input that would like to discuss more about not only their experiences with FEMA, but how we might make it better for their states, involving governors, involving emergency management, United States military personnel, law enforcement, all are invited to this table. I want to welcome and thank also Brock Long for being here, former FEMA administrator, and Craig Fugate, two former administrators of FEMA and live to tell about it. So, gentlemen, thank you. A wealth of information. I would suggest to the committee, let's get all their knowledge that we can before we allow them to leave here. So the final committee is the final subcommittee report. Of course, that will not happen officially until 20 May of 2025. But Chairman Watley, if you have any comments to make regarding I think the final report or what you've seen here today are the two subcommittee reports.
Well, thank you, sir, and really appreciate your leadership here. I also want to thank, Secretary Noem and Secretary Hegseth for their leadership on this committee, which is so absolutely critical. And Governor Landry, I want to thank you. You and Louisiana have shown the rest of this country how to respond to storms. The amount of information that you have accumulated back through Katrina and previous storms, all the way through where we are today. The rest of the country needs your leadership, and we appreciate it very much. So, and thank you so much for hosting this. I've had a chance to review all of the information that has been put together so far, by FEMA, by the staff on this committee, as well as a number of other reviews outside of the committee. And generally, I think that there are some good ideas in all of this information, but there's a couple of thoughts that continue to kind of percolate. I think is the first is that a lot of the ideas that we see when we're talking about what FEMA does, we're talking about how FEMA does it, and the rest of a government response. Because again, the federal government response is not limited to FEMA. Makes sense in a vacuum, but as we've seen just this week, we don't live in a vacuum, right? And the fact is that the storms that we have seen, the fires that we have seen over the course of the last several months, are going to continue to happen. And so, as we're thinking through what is this response going to be, what does federal emergency management need to look like? We're going to continue to be responding in real time to these storms, and I think that it's hard. When there's a lot of conversation about FEMA, about the Corps of Engineers, that we do need to be mindful of the fact that these are people who are working hard every single day to save lives, to protect communities, and I want to make sure that is put in place. Our thanks and our gratitude for everybody who's stepping up, whether it's from the Coast Guard or FEMA or the coast or anywhere else in the federal or state governments that we're seeing. And secondly, I want to thank President Trump for his vision here, because I think that as we have seen over the course of emergency management back to the 60s, every time we see a major event that takes place, there's an immediate reaction to it. Sometimes it is just put in place by the president through executive fiat. Sometimes there's legislation that looks at it, but it's very reactive. And what the president has tasked us with doing here is being proactive and making sure that we are setting up a program that may be FEMA, it may be a different entity, and that we have a lot of other actors within the federal government that are going to be involved. But more importantly, what are the states going to be doing? And what are the local governments going to be doing? That we have a proactive discussion as we're moving forward is going to be extremely important for us. And so I feel like the president's vision here is something that is going to last far beyond his term. And I think that that's very critical for what we're trying to set up. I would just say, as far as the first two subcommittees that have already started their work, I definitely appreciate all of the efforts that they're putting into gathering information, gathering the inputs that you are, because obviously that's going to be very critical as we put together ultimately what is going to be the report and the recommendations that are going to go to the president.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Watley, who has a day job and still spends his time helping with it. Also want to recognize Acting Director FEMA, David Richardson. Acting Director and I have become good friends as we talk on a daily basis. He has been invaluable. Bob Fenton, thank you again, now serving at FEMA. But the information resources that has been provided by the Acting Director and his FEMA staff will be invaluable in not only putting this report together for the president, but allowing the president of the United States to make clear-eyed decisions along with the United States Congress about how we respond in the future. So, Director Richardson, thank you so much, sir. Jonathan Owen, Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary. There was a long title involved in that, but Joe has showed up today and took charge, as all good Marines will do. I'm honored to have him here. I hope he'll get involved more as I draw people into this council to divide the workload. Joe, it is an honor to have you here, Mr. Acting Deputy Secretary, and I'll turn to you for comments before closing.
Well, thank you, Governor, and thank you, everybody here. Get the mic better.
Yes, sir.
So again, on behalf of the department, thank you for everybody in the work, National Guard Bureau. Give a shout out there. I know you guys are working hard. Secretary sees you. Dave Richardson, thank you. Acting Director. DOD is here to support. We recognize that we bring the money, we bring assets, and we are the department of last resort. We understand that, and we want everybody to know that the department is behind you and will be supporting. I'm very much in receive mode to work through any seams and find any areas that we can improve efficiencies and support. I've already gathered quite a bit of knowledge just being down here for a few hours with the gentleman, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the week, and we do not want to delay. So thank you, governors, and I turn it back to you.
Mr. Secretary, thank you. And again, to the Guard, I'm sure Governor Landry would echo my thoughts of how important our National Guard is to every executive, and how being Commander-in-Chief was one of our proudest responsibilities with the fine men and women of the National Guard. Patrick will adjourn this in a moment. If there are any further questions, comments, for the good of the order. If not, I'm going to ask that we take a moment of silent prayer to remember those families in Texas, and pray the good Lord's protection on those in New Mexico. The fathers and the mothers and the children that were lost. Lord, we ask for your divine healing, to assuage the pain that they will carry with them for their days. Lord, knowing that you are there as a great sacrifice. Lead us now, Lord, that we might serve on this council in their memory. For it's in Jesus' name we ask these things. Amen. Patrick?
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the FEMA Review Council's second public meeting. I want to thank everybody for participating both in person and virtually. A recording of this meeting will be posted to the council's website. And as various members of the council have repeatedly reiterated, your feedback is both welcome and appreciated. If you wish to contact the FEMA Review Council, you can reach out to us at FEMA-ReviewCouncil@hq.dhs.gov. You can also go to our FEMA Review Council website. It is dhs.gov/FEMA-Review-Council. And without further ado, I'd like to thank Secretary Noem, Secretary Hegseth, and Governor Landry for hosting us this week, sir. Greatly appreciate your hospitality. And to our great CBP partners here at the Customs House who are hosting us for the week, thank you all for your support. The FEMA Review Council second public meeting is hereby closed. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.